Well, hey there, friends. I am getting ready to head out for work, and this is the best time for me to make a video and express what's on my mind. So here I am. Funny enough, this room that I'm in here is too quiet. Any subscribers will know my past videos. I would have to find a back room in my office and hope that there weren't sirens in the background or revving engines, but quietude, silence, it's unnerving for some people. But I find it extremely important for my well being and being able to process some of the deeper ideas that I may come across. Because ultimately, we don't have time to really explore most of the things we hear in a day, right? We hear something, we might agree on it, argue about it, wonder about it, and then it just kind of slips by and we never know exactly, you know, whether it mattered or whether it was even true. And I've been making an effort lately to take the time to look things up right there on the spot, but also knowing how information can be lost, how much biased search results, things like this. And it got me thinking about the past and how important it is to learn about the past, and how all through my upbringing, not just what I've been taught, but what I've heard others teaching others, and what everyone, not just, from the founding of my country, but in many others, was to be a learned man was a good thing. To be able to analyze the world with a little bit more information than, let's say, your average person who doesn't take the time to learn about the world. And these are some basic, each person's going to have their own little bubble of expertise and things that they are fascinated with, or things they're interested or that they've learned. Some of them may be correct, some may be incorrect. But the big thing here is that ultimately it's all of us together discussing these things, which sometimes gets to the bottom of. And so what I'm getting at is we want to know the truth about a lot of things that we encounter in life. I remember when I used to read books, I made it a rule, decades ago, that if I ever come across a word that I don't know, I just stop what I'm doing and look it up. Back then it was a dictionary, right? Physical dictionary. But I want to understand the terms, the words. I want to know where things come from. And all of those things I learned fit into kind of my worldview. But it's not just, obviously words, it's actual history and trying. I didn't do well in history class in school. It wasn't because I wasn't interested, it was because I didn't do the work. Kind of the same went for every class, right? But I always remember just being fascinated with, I remember learning about the, various battles and civil wars between different tribes and other nations. I think it was the Hutus and the Tutsis, and I was going to tell a little story about social studies when my best friend in class, the teacher asked, "Can anybody tell me what country this was?" And it was Niger. And my buddy, he was from Georgia, and he stood up and he goes, "Yep," he said it out loud, right in the middle of class, as loud as everybody cracked up. And there was one black kid in class. His name was Marcus. I mean, uh, it was a funny, awkward moment for us as ninth graders, I guess. But teacher wasn't too stoked on that. But it was a different time. He just said, "Sit back down." Anyhow, I think it was truly his ignorance. That was the thing. My point was that he really thought it was pronounced N word, right? So I was like, no, I think it's actually Niger, if I'm not mistaken. But the point being that even knowing a little bit about the world can, keep you out of trouble. But anyway, my fascination with history extended into, the modern day. And as much as I try to absorb, I know there's so much I haven't learned. One of my favorite YouTube channels was like The Fall of Civilizations and other ones like that, where they talk about how empires have crumbled and what signs have always preceded, these declines and collapses, which has always been one of my, you know, collapse has been one of my fascinations. And I see all the signs around me the funny thing is that a lot of folks say that, and they're always called conspiracy theorists, or yeah, they say that every generation, you know. Everybody thinks it's the end times. I don't think it's the end times. I just think we're going through a huge, major change right now. And that's why I'm talking about the importance of history, of documentation, of everyone partaking in making history each day, which we are. I mean, there was a time when not everybody had, you know, cell phones, right? Like this thing right here. I was going to stop at the right down the street. There's a little waterfall down on the river, and I saw the salmon running up there, and I was going to go down and try to get a couple photos. Hope they're jumping up the waterfall right now, and it's just such an awesome, you know, thing to behold. But I was thinking about, you know, I documented on this my Panasonic camera, right? And I was thinking of just what an amazing tool this is and has been through history, and all the way back to, you know, there was a time when photography became, you know, when photography was invented, painters just panicked around the world because to them, documenting history and people was painting people. And now you could just take a picture of them. And it totally changed the way that the world worked. But you know, that was something they were thinking portraits at the time, right? Landscapes. But then we quickly realized with a good camera being in the right spot, you could capture a historic moment that, you know, a couple hundred years later could be used to try to understand better, you know, what happened at that time. And I say this because history is written by the victors. A lot of the photographs in the past and a lot of the, you know, maybe video that was less than favorable to various governments or agencies, they have no problem just completely destroying that history. So this would be the lost media side of things. And there's lots of it out there. There's so much lost media that it far outweighs, I'm sure, the media that's available. And some of these moments in history, maybe it could be like a military coup or something. But if all documentation is lost, then, you know, then there's no trace of it. But now we're living in a time where there's a camera on every street corner, heading into the mass surveillance era, and at the same time, kind of forgetting what we stand for as a nation, in my opinion. And I'm only speaking of my country right now. That we have allowed ourselves since the Patriot Act to completely be monitored like children by the government. It is so Orwellian that an entire generation has grown up accustomed to it as if it's normal. I mean, yes, there was a time when not just you could smoke on airplanes, but you could just get on a plane without a TSA check. I mean, it wasn't an issue until we needed to make it an issue. And ever since then, it's been this war against somebody, this terrorist war. But the real history, the point is the real history it's right freaking there. You can go look it up and see that they said they were going into Iraq for a certain reason. And then you can read and see that the Pentagon mysteriously was missing a couple $1 trillion. And you can see that, they lied about why we went in there, right? And on and on and on. You can look back historically now and see declassified documents, but there is a history gap, a generation gap, and those with power know. If you want to release, top secret information, you just wait a generation, wait 20 years, and nobody will care anymore. And that's not always true. There's always survivors that care, but for the most part, nobody does anything about it. And so who knows how much, history we haven't even seen yet that's just classified at the moment. But the important thing that I'm trying to get to here is don't just document everything in life, but remember and make every effort to remember correctly. With all the videos I have on YouTube, put butter in your coffee. It's really good. Just a little, like a half teaspoon of Irish butter. So good. With my history, I can go back sometimes and watch a video that I made years ago, which I don't do very often, but I'll come across one and be like, I wonder what I was thinking at that time, right? And be absolutely clueless as to what the hell I'm talking about. the things that I knew at that moment. I had been researching, it was like strong in my mind. And I just go, wow, I forgot about that. Just another thing pushed out of my mind, right? And how often do we do that? Way more often than we think. So I guess it's just that so much research has come out, even in recent years, about how flawed our memories really are. Everyone's experienced maybe even a memory you didn't even really have. Maybe it's something you were told about and you thought you were there, or you thought that, the situation was different, and you swear you remember things. You swear that you've got a good memory and you remember exactly how that thing happened. But then you see the video or the audio and you find out, no, you were totally wrong. It's something we don't want to ever admit. It's that quote, and I thought of it earlier. It's easier to fool a man than convince him he's been fooled. It's so true, because if we think that we've fooled ourselves, it's even harder to admit. So learn your history as much as you can, document the present, and kind of revisit things that you thought you knew. Reread books, and you'll find you don't remember anything. It's kind of like, oh, I know people who watch movies over and over, but I'm the kind of guy who just wants to see it once because, but I'll go back to watch a movie like 3 or 4 years later and say, oh God, I've already seen this one, but I'll watch it again. Don't remember anything. Hell, might have passed out stoned halfway through. I don't remember. It's like we think that we know more than we know, and that we think we remember more than we remember. So we just got to admit we're all dumbasses. And unless you're one of those dudes with the photographic memory that can remember every single word that anybody said, that's some amazing stuff. Thank God I ain't got that one. And yeah. So I'm trying to get some photos of salmon and get off to work, and I'll talk to you next time. Be well. Peace. And thanks again to my subscribers. I do have another channel I mentioned, Philo Veritas. That's where I put my kind of complaints and political rants, or I'm going to when I feel it, because I don't want them here. And also my other homestead channel, Carpo's Homestead. And beyond that, thanks to my patrons and thanks to my subscribers. Leave a comment. Tell me about your thoughts on history, and I'll see you next time.